the intensity was starting to pick up, which I was so excited about because I couldn't figure it out, Jared. I knew that, fuel mileage, yes, it's always been somewhat of a big deal, but over the last few years of NextGen racing on super speedways, it's been a dramatic deal. So with the field all compressed into a 1.5 second group, you can save enough gas to be the last car in line and then jump to the first car in line after a pit cycle, as long as you do a good job on entry of the pits, rolling down pit road, stopping, and then exiting pit road, and then exiting with a group. You can flip-flop the field. We did it during the duels, right? I was in the back of the duels for the most time, saved enough gas, and that allowed me to have a good pit stop. I did a good job on and off pit road, and that allowed us to then get to the front of the duel, right? So everyone's trying to do it, and then I realized that, holy shit, these guys are doing it on lap 2. I'm trying to push I think I was on the top line, and I'm pushing the shit out of whoever was in front of me. I think it was maybe Cindric or somebody. And I'm like, what the hell? Why aren't these guys going? Like, push the guy in front of you now. Like, I'm trying.
So they're like,
my message, when I'm trying to push someone, mid-race, early race, whatever, that is me whispering in the competitor's ear in front of me, go hit the guy in front of you now. Go push him. Like, I'm trying to keep that line moving, right? So
you're trying to send a message.
Yeah, to like, hey, we got to keep our line going here. We got to keep it going. But I just kept wondering, like, why am I running into him like so hard, in the sense of I'm pushing them down the straightaway and it feels like they're almost hitting the brakes. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, is everyone saving gas right now? Like right off the bat? Like, let's fight for position. And then if we get single file, then let's go into fuel save mode. But are we really doing this 2x2? And the field just kept getting slower and slower and slower. Now, for the fans at home, we run usually if everyone's running 100% in a pack at Daytona, the speeds will be in the low 46 second bracket. So 46 seconds to make a lap around there, which that equates to about 195 miles per hour, 196. We're driving, and I'm like, okay, they're clearly not wanting to go anywhere. So I kind of lay off, and I start saving fuel like I guess everyone else is doing. And we just keep slowing down. And eventually, no one wants to pass anyone because everyone's like, okay, well, I guess we're all going to do this together. We're all going to save fuel together because nobody wants to get, if you're up front and you choose to run hard to keep that position, you're running wide open, you probably got to pit 2-3 laps ahead of the guys that are in the back of the pack that are running half throttle, so they can not only go longer, but have a shorter pit stop in time, and then they flip you, and the next thing you know, you're at the back of the pack because you were at the front of the pack before, using gas to stay there. So everyone, it seemed like, was content to just, I'm going to ride where I'm going to ride. We're just going to work this out once pit stops come. And so we ended up slowing down to like mid 51 second lap times, 175 miles per hour. That is like 2 seconds slower than what one single car can run by itself. I couldn't believe it. It was a 175 mile per hour pace lap for lap after lap after lap. And it was so frustrating. I got on the radio to Chris. I'm like, this sucks. Like, I want to race. I want to race. I want to battle. I want to shoot through the middle. I want to go to the bottom and the top. But I couldn't because the field's jammed up. Everyone's trying to just save gas because that's the type of racing that we have now. And then nothing happens until a pit stop.
Can you take me back to when it wasn't like that? Like, what was the strategy of racing then?
Okay, so the reason why this is going on, and there's various reasons, but how can I start it from the top? The NextGen car has a tremendous amount of drag, a ton of drag. So the spoiler is giant. The car itself, even with no spoiler, has a way more drag than the Gen 6 car.
And that's to keep the car from going 250 miles an hour.
It's just, yes, the spoilers and the horsepower is what keeps it from doing that. But the car itself, how it's shaped, has more drag. So if you put the same size spoiler and the same engine in a Gen 6 car, which is the previous generation, and versus a NextGen, the NextGen is going to go slower down the straightaway just because the body and how it's shaped is slower, right? Okay. So with it having so much drag, it also creates a big air pocket that allows cars to suck up into it and just kind of run half throttle, but yet be right there next to the car that it's behind. So it's got a ton of drag. So anytime you can run 10% less throttle than the person in front of you, it's going to allow the fuel mileage to get way better. Probably in the, let's just say from 5 miles per gallon to maybe 6 miles per gallon.
So the drag of the car has actually created this fuel mileage racing. And it's
there's many factors, but that is a factor, right? They've slowed us way down. Look at the pole speeds from the last. We haven't run this slow for the pole in 30 or 40 years. It's been, we are creeping around that racetrack. They have slowed us up, in my opinion, entirely too much. Because a car flips over and it's panic mode and, we got to do something. Well, I get it, but if you look at, for instance, when Danica Patrick sat on the pole, she ran 20 miles an hour faster, but the pack speed was only like a tenth or two faster once they got in the pack because the cars already had less drag in them by themselves. So now what happens is when they have this drag, when you create a big pack of it, it just makes the pack go faster because you're taking away the drag. So that's one factor in it. But you cannot get to the front anymore because it's 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. You can't go to a middle lane, third lane like you used to unless the field is saving gas. Because if you pull out of line, it is like hitting a parachute in this car. You have to have such a big run to pull out and then pass. The great moves that Dale Earnhardt made, the great moves that Tony Stewart, Dale Jr. made back in the day in these cars, you would see them in a line, pull out, pass, and then get back up in line. Because when they pulled out, they didn't have all that drag. Their car had the ability to keep its momentum. But now, say your RPMs are spinning up, you can feel it. You're in the pack of the draft. Immediately, if you pull out, it is you pull a parachute and your car just stops. So you never actually get past the car you're trying to pass. So then the best idea is just to stay in line. If you stay in line, you're in the safe zone, right? So it's a combination of many things. But in my opinion, if I had the knobs to turn on the Cup Series to make the super speedway racing better, it is to put it back like it used to be, in the sense of they need to run faster by themselves. To do that, they need to take some of the spoiler off to create more of that bubble so we're not running into each other. That's more dangerous than anything we do, is how hard we're hitting each other. I'm not saying go back to full bubble racing where you just get close to someone and it pushes them away. We still were bump drafting back in 2006, my very first season. That's always been part of it. And we will always do that because we've learned that works. But you've got to make these cars faster by themselves because you can't pull out of line in them. If you pull out of line, especially with just one or two cars, straight to the back you go because of the drag. So that's why we all just stay in a 2x2 line and it looks like a parade lap. And you hear the announcers talking and they are struggling to come up with an exciting story when these cars are just running pace laps at 175 miles per hour in the draft. So we need to do something. I think the one thing, do we need to do something? No. Will they do something? No. But it just, I said this 2 years ago, that super speedway racing needs to be address on the next gen car because of it. It just has way too much drag. It's way too slow. You would like to see the skill being shown more than what it's shown now, because while you can see it, it takes 80 laps for someone to battle from the back to the front, and they need the lines to work out perfectly for it to happen. The days of Dale Earnhardt going from 15th or whatever in the 9 laps, forget that. Like, it just, those days don't exist anymore because you can't pull out of line with these things. When you kind of digest this whole Chastain Larson thing, you definitely have to go back earlier